Good day, people of the internet. Good day, mainly not mainly to everybody, but also to my Romanian audience, because this is made a little bit for the Romanian audience, which
Mhm.
know English, because well, I'm gonna try. Let's see if I'm. Uh, we speak English mainly, so it won't be a problem to understand what
Yes.
we are saying. So I'm gonna start this. Let's call it discussion, small discussion. Interview. It's more informal than formal.
Mhm.
Um, let's talk about who is Uli Blenemann. Who,
Mhm.
where, uh, where, where did you grow up, and how it was? How did you become a gamer?
Yeah.
The first.
Yeah. So first of all, my regards from Germany to Romania. I'm glad being here and talking with you all. So I was raised in the western part, in the industrial heart of Germany. So which is basically depicted in the game Kohle and Kolonie. So even my hometown is there. It's Hattingen, which is a city, smaller city next to Essen. So where the game fair is. So I was raised just a couple of kilometers away from Essen, and this is as I said, the industrial heart. So there was a lot of coal and even more steel. So steel companies. And my father worked in a steel company, and yeah, and in Germany at that time, so we are now talking about the 70s, when I was a kid, um, gaming in Germany was pretty normal. So you played the traditional games like Monopoly or Parcheesi or other checkers. You played at home, and the four-player games you played with your parents. But I also had an older brother, so he's 3 years older, so we could play together and with friends. So I always played games, but not, of course, these were very basic traditional stuff, not the stuff you are used to play today, because there weren't hardly any of these games that we know of today. And but when I was older, getting older, so in '79, I was 14 at that time. I discovered the new modern gaming age. So I have a huge interest in history. So and later when I was in university, I studied history as my main course. Second one was politics and Eastern European history. So, so we discovered, my brother and me, we discovered wargaming. So board wargaming, which was done at that time hardly anywhere in Germany, but there were a few stores who imported games from America, from the US. So Avalon Hill stuff, and at that time SPI, these were the major companies. And we started with one tiny game. We loved it, and yeah, we never looked back from there. And actually, for the next couple of years, I played mainly US games. So we played war games, we played diplomacy, we played Cosmic Encounter, which was already available at that time, Civilization, of course, Advanced Civilization later. And we hardly played, although the game of the year in Germany was already a thing, but we would never have thought about playing a Euro type game, because we thought, well, this is basic stuff. We stick to our war games and play the more involved stuff. And only later I got into Euro games when when I played with friends a game, and I thought, wow, this is nice. This is interesting. This is not basic stuff like like I knew from my childhood. So these are really good games. I'm still a war gamer. I play war games. I play everything, anything. But of course, I play mainly these days. I play mainly Euro type games. But what has stick? I love history. So if a Eurotype game has a theme, then I prefer this to, and I hardly play any abstract games. If it has no, if it cannot grab my imagination, a game, then I'm most of the time not interested. Of course, there are always exceptions. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, of course. And what were the games of the, or the Euro? No, tell us a little bit about the practically the Germany invented the Euro type game.
Yeah, in Germany, because most Germans at that time, at least, they played games in their families. So Germany had a large pool of gamers, of who knew, oh, there's a board game, let's play it. So it's a general pastime at that time. We played games in the families with friends, basic games. And so if you have a large pool of gamers, the chances that there is a market to produce these games and release the games are higher than there aren't hardly any gamers, because you can't make a profit producing these games. And of course, with a larger pool of gamers, the chances that there are more authors, more designers is also higher. And of course, there was some luck in there, but to have such outstanding authors like Wolfgang Kramer, of course Klaus Teuber, who did Catan, and others, and probably several things came together. So having great authors, a demand for games, a demand for a different type of game, not always the same traditional thing. So it came together, and from there it grew and grew and grew. So this, in my opinion, this can only happen if people know what it is. Otherwise, it stays in a niche. But in Germany, seeing board games at that time, this was standard, usual stuff. You had them everywhere. You could buy them everywhere. Just that there's a new kind of game. For us, Catan nowadays is something, yeah, well, still a good game, good to great game, but yeah, it's nothing really special. But at that time, when you played it for the first time, wow, you thought, wow, this is fantastic. And so it grew from there. Yeah.
That time means 95, but Catan it appeared in 1995. No,
Yes, but there were the game of the year was already started. I think I may be wrong. I think it started in the late 70s with Hare and Tortoise, and there were, of course, already other very successful game of the years before Catan. But Catan, of course, is a pillar, is a landmark that is outstanding. And from there, it moved to Carcassonne in the early, I think it's 2002, but I may be wrong again. And of course, these two games are really still going strong. And then afterwards, Ticket to Ride in Germany, it's Zug um Zug, appeared in 2004. And this, as you know, is still going strong with new games and selling more and more copy each and every years. But before Catan, if there wouldn't have been a Game of the Year award and people playing these games, I think the game would not have made such a huge impact. You know, such a huge impact. Mhm. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so yeah, you were talking a little bit about Wolfgang Kramer, and I was thinking that Forest was in '87.
Which one?
Think Torres.
Yes,
Torres.
Torres, and basically he had a trilogy of Game of the Years. I think there was Torres, Tikal, and of course El Grande, which is still a great title to this day. But it also tells you that it changes, or the Game of the Year in Germany is changing. Is changing because nowadays these games are seen as quite complex, and probably they could only win if they are for the Kennerspiel, so for the expert gamers. So times are changing.
Yeah. You know, um, usually towards Latin, the German people are, and I'm not trying to stereotype here, but usually they are considered a bit colder than we are as Latin.
Mm-hmm.
Yet, playing games and having fun with the family, somehow this should tell you that they're a bit warmer than you think.
Yeah, well, you don't know how cold it can be at a German gaming table. No, but I think Pachisi, in Germany it's Mensch ärger dich nicht. I think so at least. That this is the same game. This is from the early 20th century or late 19th century. So you see the tradition for these games is long and deep, and I think this is important. It's simply a thing in Germany. When I was young, everybody played games, and not with your friends only, or with your brothers, sisters, but also with your mother and father. Of course, there's always a thing with a certain type of games that they want to educate. So there were games on math or on other things where you had to answer questions, so to improve your knowledge on geography and stuff. And of course, parents probably love to play these games with their kids, so that they know something in addition, so that they learn something. But yeah. But I agree, Germany can be cold. And I'm not sure if gamers are an exception there. It's each and every country, although hopefully we grow further together to in Europe to get closer ties, although right now it seems that we are drifting apart again. But maybe games can help a little bit with this. So, but still, each country has its own culture. That's what it is so far.
Yes. Now, can you tell us a little bit about how did you become involved in wanting to be more than just a gamer, and wanting to create a gaming company?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So getting back, so I was at university in the late 80s and early 90s. And I was studying, as I said, history and some other stuff, politics, Eastern European history. And at that time, and still today, it is quite difficult to find a job with these fields if you do not want to become a teacher. And I definitely did not want to become a teacher because I think it's one of the hardest jobs that you can have. And I have a high respect for teachers, but I thought, no, you don't want to be a teacher, because my mother is a teacher and I saw how hard it can be. So I said, no, teacher. And then I thought, well, you love gaming, you play games so much. Why not start a game company? And so it was not really well thought out. It just happened. I read a lot about this, and of course this was a tiny company. It was called Moments in History in '93. And I did war games at that time, just war games. And with these low print runs, I could finance them myself. And at that time, the distribution system, this is pre-Magic times, so was still pretty intact. So US distributors, because wargaming was mainly a thing in the US and hardly in Germany. So I did only, the games were only in English language, no German language. And I sold more than 90% in the US, although I was living in Germany. And that was doable, and I could finance this, but it was also very, very difficult. Internet, I already had internet in '93 in Germany, but of course a totally different kind of environment. And on top of that, I thought that this would be just a part-time thing, but it's so much work. You either do this full-time or not at all. So, and over the years, it got harder and harder because Magic appeared, and US distributors slowed down in war game sales. They wanted to sell stuff that is selling faster, and this is of course collectible cards and Eurotype games, which then hit the US market after Catan and started to hit. And war games are simply selling slower. And that was the reason why I sold Moments in History in 99. Yeah.
You sell it to who? Who did
that was at that time. So I had announced in internet, and at that time you shipped out newsletters by physical mail because not too many people had internet at that time, and you couldn't really include graphics well, so you sent out catalogs and newsletters, and I announced this is so much work. I will slow down to a single game a year and only do this part-time in the future. And I was quite happy with this, but then a US company that was at that time Critical Hit, they phoned me, and I thought really this is Candid Camera. So because they said we want to buy Moments in History, and I thought, because actually, although Moments in History had no debt, so that was good, but I had also hardly any stock and really no long-time seller. So the value, at least to me, was very low. And I thought, well, is this really going? But within a month, so in late January 99, I sold the company, and that was that. So that was really good for me. Yeah, and I could do something else.
Now let's go. You sold the company, and then you how did you end up creating a new one?
Well, this was a long time. So we are now in 99, and at first I thought I'm out of the gaming business. I didn't. I had worked so hard for Moments in History. I had some money in my pocket, so I thought let's do something else. But I didn't knew what to do. So I was sitting at home, and I got a magazine, and I played football. And I had also at that time I had a football coaching license, and I was a football coach, but just part time. And there was a magazine I regularly got subscribed to, which was about football training. So not about games, but about how to train and coach. And they had an advert in there, and it said that they are looking for a new writer. And you needed a football license or coaching license and be able to write. And so I applied to this, although it was not really something where I thought that they would take me. So I had an interview and they took me. So I worked there for, I think, 15, 18 months and wrote about football. Some magazine articles, a book, and some other stuff. And that's what I did. And it was pretty fun and it was actually good. But if you are used to work from home within your own schedule, then it's very different than working in a company, start at 9 or at 8 in the morning and leave at 5 in the afternoon.
Can you hear me?
Matter. Yes, I hear you, but I see you very blurry. Maybe we should just do it audio. I'm not sure if this is good for you.
That's for connection. Yeah, no, audio. We get audio anyway, so
Okay.
I can take the audio out of the video.
Okay, so then I'm simply continuing, and this was something that I like to do, but I would love to still work from home. And then I got a call from a good friend of mine, from Michael Bruinsma, from the Netherlands. He's the owner of 999 Games, and I know him from the 80s when we played together some war games. He's also a war gamer, and he said that he wanted to start another company, and that was Phalanx Games. So that's not Phalanx Games in Poland, but the Dutch original company. And I said yes, and I started there. That was 2001, I think. And we did games till 2009-10, and just Eurotype games and some light war games. So, for example, we did a new edition of A House Divided, a classic war game. We had Waterloo, but also we had Maharaja, a Kramer Kiesling game, which was nominated for Game of the Year, and some other stuff over the years. But the problem was uh, that after a while I wanted to do games again where I'm saying this is a game I wanted to do and this is not a game I want to do. But if Phalanx Games was not my company, I was an employee, and so I worked on the games that were handed to me by Michael, by other people, which where he had signed the contracts. And in 2009, I told him, I want a part. And that was the reason why I started finally Spielworxx in 2010. So that I could again do games that I want to do. And of course, modern technologies in 2010 made it way easier to do games from home alone than in 93 when I formed Moments in History. You could have an online shop. The graphics artist is sending the files from home as a print PDF and all this stuff. You know this, so it's easier.
So you practically wanted to work from home. That was your main idea.
Yes. So it's very convenient. You can think way better, in my opinion, about stuff. And of course, I'm an early riser, so I get up very early, and I'm normally at my desk at 7 o'clock in the morning. I get up at 5:30, and sometimes I work uh, very long hours. I work each and every day of the year. There is not a single day, even if I'm on vacation, where I'm not working. So if you think, oh well, this is nice working from home, you do just a few hours a week. No, it's definitely more than 50 hours a week easily that I'm working. But it's fun for me, and of course, it also means it's in summer when again we are allowed to go outside. It could be that during a week I'm only working 30 hours a week, but then maybe next week it's 60 hours. But it's my freedom to decide what to do, and this is a huge advantage, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah. And you started the Spielworxx company. Which was the first game you made?
The first game was Washington's War, and this was just a localized version. So, Washington's War is by GMT Games, and I knew that the game would be published. That is a reissue, um, much changed. So, it's not a reprint, but a completely new edition of We the People from Avalon Hill. So, and I knew that GMT would do the game, so I asked well in advance, can I join the print run just with 500 copies, just German language? And GMT Games agreed, and that was my first game. But at that time, I thought Spielworxx would just do localized versions of games. So this is how it started.
And your first original game?
My first original game, that is a good question. This is probably, but I need to look actually. This is probably from Martin Wallace, Zeitalter der Vernunft, which is a major revision of Struggle of Empires from Tree Frog games. So, and that was already done in German and English language. and that was a completely new game, so not just a localized version. So I think this is the first one. Hopefully I'm not wrong, but I think so. I think so. Yeah.
And what was the first major success of Spielworxx, which put the company on the map of gaming, in the eyes of gaming?
I'm not even sure. So we'll have to be realistic. 99% of people, even in gaming, who are gamers, of course, professionals, probably they know Spielworxx, but gamers, 99% have never heard of Spielworxx. So I have no clout here. But I think for real hobby gamers, the games that put me on the map were Colonie, and then finally La Granja by Ode and Mike Keller. Because that game was pretty for Spielworxx, it was a major success, and it has been licensed to so many different languages, and so that is probably the defining factor for Spielworxx. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Can you see me?
Yes, I see you. It's everything is blurry. I see your hand, but at least I see you.
Yeah. To me, it's that poor connection.
Yeah,
it's mine. I don't know. It's mine.
Yeah, it's these times. Too many people are online.
I don't know if it's that or it's just my internet connection. I'm not the 4G right now. I don't know why. I think it's my fault. Can I 1 second? I need to get a cable. Yeah. 1 second.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. I'm not running.
Okay. It's really struggling with the signal here. I don't know why. Okay. You're speaking about La Granja. La Granja is, I think, 2015 title.
Yes.
So practically started the company in 2009, 2010.
Yes.
And 5 years later, it practically had the success.
Yeah, but you see, if I can sell 1,000 copies of a game, this is fine with me. This is good. So of course, if a game is more successful and gets licensed editions later, like La Granja, then it's good for me, it's good for the graphics artist, it's good for the designer, because graphics artists and designer or designers are underpaid, criminally underpaid, and so they get some extra money. But for me as Spielworxx, as Uli, because it's just a one-man show with the help of a editor and the help of a graphics artist, this is fine. I can work from here. You won't get rich, I can tell you. This is something that is 100% sure, but it gives me, or let's put it this way, you need to determine what is important for your life. Do you want to drive a Porsche? Do you want to yeah, have luxury around you, or do you want to have a good life? So do something which you think is good to do, where you have a lot of freedom. So I can have a call with you now and we can talk about games. Of course, this means I need to work a little bit longer in the evening, but this is my choice, and this is very important to me, and it gives me some quality in life. If you think in money, no, probably don't form a company like Spielworxx. So.
So let's talk. You answered a bit into my next question. Let's talk about a bit about the Spielworxx model. How why did you end up doing 1,000 copies? Exactly 1,000, and how did you come to that model?
Yeah, well, actually, I started when I did the localized versions. At the start of Spielworxx, I only did 500 copies because I had just German language, and I thought, and war games, even if light war games like Washington's War, this is the maximum the market can support. And only later, when I got English language rights, so original games, that I moved to 1,000 copies. Um, and I'm so long in the gaming industry that I noticed something that is now very stronger than in 2010. That the distribution model in almost all countries is broken. So a distributor gets your games for a huge discount, roughly 50, in the US, 60% off. So for each dollar, you only get 40 cents, and you produce a game, and it's your risk. So you produce your whole print run. Let's say you produce 5,000 copies. But if you only sell 2,000, then you're in deep shit. And of course, you need to store these games. And maybe it could be, let's say that I'm able, because the game is a success, to sell 5,000 copies. But maybe I'm selling the last 1,000 copies only 2 years from now, and not for the full price. Let's say it was a 50 euro game. I need to discount it to get rid of the print run for 15, and then I'm getting 40% out of 15, and I need to pay everybody. And each month where I have stored my games on pallets in a warehouse, I need to pay for them per pallet. So I think it's not the thing for me. Of course, there are smarter people and they do it correctly. They print more because then the price comes down and everything is fine. But I'm in a niche market and I want to, and I need to pay for a print run out of my pocket. I'm not going to a bank to finance the next game. So I do it from my own money. And even if the per unit cost on a 1,000 copies is higher than on 3,000, 2,000, 4,000, it's still something that I can finance. But financing a 5,000 print run is very difficult. I would sleep badly, and I'm not sure if I could move the games because, let's be realistic, not all the games a company is doing are hits, and you don't know in advance which game will be a hit and which game will be a dud. Of course, you have some ideas, but in the end, there's so much luck involved there, especially in internet times when you have the first 10 reviews before the game is even out, and or played once, and if these reviews are negative, then it's very difficult to be there. Yeah.
So it's a risk management in the end.
For me, it's risk management. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, where do you see Spielworxx going from here? I mean, for me personally, there are some you did some great games like I have some there, Arkwright and Cole and Polonia. They are two of my favorite Spielworxx games. I like a lot some of the other ones. I really think Essence of the Gold can be a little bit better, and I want to try that variant Jason did, and I think it might find enough the game. There is Sola Fide game which I really like. I think that he did with Stronghold game.
Yes.
Sola Fide.
But we did this one with Stronghold Games, and I have a very good relationship to Stephen, the Stephen Buonacore of Stronghold Games. He's a good friend of mine, and we try to collaborate. We did together Die Macher. So Die Macher was just done by me, but it was done by or run by a Kickstarter which Stronghold Games did. And my next release, Tribune, I wanted to Kickstarter myself, but this will be also a Kickstarter like Die Macher by Stronghold Games. So this is, I try to change a little bit because a small company, a tiny company like Spielworxx needs to be flexible. And the market is changing so rapidly. And your initial question was, where do you see Spielworxx? What do you want to do in the future? Actually, I don't know what the future will bring. Maybe in 2 years, I'm doing the same thing as today, 1,000 copy print runs. Maybe I do more. Maybe I'm just doing Kickstarters. I don't know. The market is changing so rapidly. Asmodee is controlling the major channels. A lot of companies, it's difficult. It's very difficult.
So, but I know you have already signed a few games.
Yes.
You tweeted a bit about Tribune. You tweeted about Jason's new game, which is
Crescent City Cargo, yes. So for this year. So you never know what COVID, Corona will do. So this is, but let's say everything works out nicely, and Corona doesn't have a major impact. Then Tribune will be out this year. As I said, this will be a Kickstarter by Stronghold Games. There will be Pardon?
Or it should be out by Essence, sorry to interrupt you.
Hopefully, yes. This is the plan, yes. And then we will have Crescent City Cargo. This is the second game by Jason Dinger, who did Captains of the Gulf. There will be also a new edition, also done by Stronghold, of Captains of the Gulf, so a licensed second edition. And of course, there will be also this year The Cost, which is a game on the asbestos industry. And these are the games for this year. But I've also already signed games for next year, which one of them is Taros, then Squaring, Circleville. I have an 18xx game that I will do. And the third game I'm doing from Kalle Schmiel. So, Kalle did Die Macher, he did Tribune, and there will be a new edition of Lieber Bayerisch Sterben, which is a German title, and that game is very old, from the 80s, and it was never done before in English language. So we are doing this, and I have some games for 2022 as well.
So you practically have your schedule for let's say 2 years in advance.
Yeah, I try to do this. But of course, let's say I get now a new hit game where I think this is wonderful. I need to do this immediately. Then I can change my schedule. But I try to plan in advance. And right now it's fairly good to do so because I can't test here. I can test a little bit electronically. My wife plays some games, but she prefers the lighter games. So, and I'm mainly doing, as you know, heavier type games. And I can't invite friends to test because in lockdown it's not possible anymore. So I'm fortunate that for this year, my games that appear in this year, they are done testing wise. Not graphically, the rules need to be done. But I'm right now, I test games for next year. So I've already tested, of course, them earlier, but now I'm starting to test them in earnest. So I try to be in advance, and it will be interesting how long this lockdown will take because at a certain point I need to test with other gamers. I can't just do two-player tests. I need to test with 3, 4, or even 5 people, and all of them have to be gaming experts. And yeah, and this is of course missing. You know.
So I wanted to ask you a bit because we are closing. We are going to the end of our discussion here.
Mhm.
How do you feel the sports gaming industry has changed in the last few years? Let's say 5 years. And where do you think it is going?
Yeah, well, it's just me, so I'm not sure if I'm right. I give you just my personal opinion about it. One thing that is very good and naturally in a capitalistic world is the market has grown. We have more players worldwide. We have players everywhere. This is fantastic. And we are living also in a globalized world. So we can, via the internet, we look at BGG, get some US trends, trends from France, trends from the Far East. So for some years, we have great games from Japan. Before that, 20 years ago, games from Japan, maybe some traditional games. But so I love this. And also, we have not only players, we have designers, authors from everywhere. So this is fantastic. But in a capitalistic world, we'll see that the large companies they are buying smaller ones. This is what it is, and some try to dominate the market. And so we'll see. And I know here in Germany, from Asmodee Germany, I know a few people, some of them very well, and all of them are fantastic people. They are great. But still, as a company, I do not like Asmodee at all because they are not only dominating the publishing field, but also the distribution field. So it's very difficult that new players entering the market. Um, Another thing that is difficult is not only how to enter the market, how to have a fair chance to be a market player. Another thing is there are not enough women in gaming. Of course, we see that there are more and more women players there, which is also fantastic, but we have hardly any authors. We have a few, and this is growing. Of course, look at Elizabeth Hargraves with Wingspan. She won all major prizes that you can win. We have here in Germany Sophia Wagner, who did Noria a couple of years ago, some other games, but it's not enough. And look at the companies. At the top of the companies, man. So editors and this has to change to have a more diverse gaming field. But it will take a long time, in my opinion, and we need to find things how to speed this up and give everybody a chance to participate fairly. This is, in my opinion, very important. And one other thing is, maybe the last thing here is that there are too many games on the market. It's fantastic that it's easier to print games. I know this for Spielworxx. Compared to the 90s, it's so much easier to print a game in a great quality, even in small print runs. But the huge amount of games makes it very difficult to get any knowledge. If I was supposed about or thinking about starting Spielworxx now in 2020, I would not do this. And this has nothing to do with Corona. I would be too scared to do this. So I'm very happy that some people know me. I love my loyal followers of people who buy my games, and I'm very grateful that they continue to do so. But if you are a new player and think, wow, look at all the games and all the companies, they must make a lot of money. Otherwise, they would not do this. I would be too scared to open a new company these days. Maybe working for a larger company, yes, but yeah, but we'll see a lot of changes in the future because it can't continue as it is right now. I'm not saying there will be a burst and no games anymore, but I think it will shrink in a certain way. And of course, Corona um, may fasten this. Because it will be difficult to have convention these years all over the world. And of course, convention of the fair at Essen, they bring people together. They put enthusiasm into gamers, seeing other people enjoy the same hobby. This will be difficult in these years. And of course, all brick and mortar stores right now are closed. And so you can't enter a store and buy a game. You have to go online. And yeah, but again, maybe I'm totally wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong. It's just my perspective. And there are smarter people out there who probably see it differently.
Now, for the weekend, could you tell us which is your favorite game?
Very difficult. Right now, but this may change till next week. So right now, my favorite game is An Infamous Traffic by Cole Worley and published by Holland Spiele. And this is fantastic on so many levels. And yeah, this is my favorite game. Pardon?
It's a good game, but an ugly game.
Yeah, well, I think it has also I think mechanically it's very strong. You need to be with 4 and 5 players. If you are playing with 3, this is possible, but not good. But it's really to the point. Even passing in the game is important. But the topic, I said that I'm very much interested into history, and it's you are in the 19th century in China, but you are running a British company who's selling opium. But in fact, you are not really interested in the company. The only thing that interests you, because you are all the players are British people, how to appear in London. What is your appearance over there? You want to take money out of the opium trade, out of the company, and then pocket it. And this is a fantastic combination. And of course, there's also this moral level at the end of the game. And this moral level is missing in most games because it could be that during the game there are 2 or 3 opium wars in China, which kill a lot of people. And of course, opium, a drug, is also not a good stuff to buy and sell. But it doesn't interest you at all. It's, do I have a new fancy hat? Do I have a good marriage in London? Do I got an Oxford degree? This is what drives you. And so this game is really outstanding. And if you think now, well, Holland Spiele, a very minor publisher, the game is very costly. I think I'm not even sure if it's still in the catalog, but Cole will do a new edition via Whirligig. So that's a company he's running together with his brother Drew. They will do a new edition of this game in 2 years, in about 2 years, and so then the game will be available for a wider audience. And I can only say, if you get a chance to play the game, do it. If you get a chance to purchase the game, do it.
Yeah, it is a good game.
Yeah.
And what is your favorite Spielworxx game?
Also very difficult. Probably it is colonialism, because it's an early serious game. So I love serious gaming, and it's a game about the colonial age, and the mechanics are typically typical Euro-ish, not too complex. You are running a nation who is in. Pardon?
It has a little bit of El Grande there.
Yes, right. It's a little bit of a Granier. It has some majority items. It has also your own. Each player has its own deck of cards and puts these cards to regions and can act in these regions. But the art on the cards is very, very dark. So if a card says diplomacy, you need its diplomacy from us Western countries, and it's not any diplomacy with the natives or with the African or with the Asian people. You are not interested in this. You try to dominate them. And so I like it because of the topic, but also I think it's mechanically strong. But of course, La Granja is good. Gentes is brilliant. Yinzi is very strong. I love Die Macher. So basically, these are all babies of me. So they are the babies of the authors, but they are also my kids, and I love everyone. Of course, everyone has some mistakes in them, and some have some really rough edges, but I still love these dearly. And it's, you know, this in book publishing or in game publishing, no game, no book is ever finished. You just hand it to the printer. And if you look at it with fresh eyes, then you change something. So new book editions are changed, new game edition are changed. And this is what it is. But I still love all the games, although sometimes it's very difficult for me to play one of my games when they are already out, because then I notice some things that I would have loved to change. But still, this does not mean that I do not love the games anymore.
And my last question is, what is your favorite designer?
I would name two people, but this is very unfair. So I think all designers, all authors, I admire all of them because they are so creative, and I'm not that creative. So, but if I would name two people, I would say Mark Herman and Cole Worley. So these are my two favorite designers. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll edit this, but I have forgotten to ask you in the chain of questions. I forgot to ask you before all your favorite things. What do you think where do you think the heavy gamers market will go from where we are in the future?
Yeah, I think because the total pool of gamers has increased in the last 10, 15 years so much, there are lots of heavy gamers out there, and they will demand more heavy games. It's always the question, what is rising faster? Is it the number of heavy gamers or the number of heavy games? If there are too many heavy games, then it will be difficult for everybody. But you see a game like Frosthaven, which just started, the Kickstarter campaign started only yesterday. So the game is very costly because it's a huge game. It's, of course, everybody who knows Gloomhaven knows what to expect. Although I don't want to say Frosthaven is like Gloomhaven, but you see, if you just click on Kickstarter now and see how many people have backed the game, this is mind-blowing. This is mind-blowing. Of course, this does not mean that all the games are as successful as Frosthaven. This is an exception, but there is a large pool of heavy gamers, and they will demand or look out for more heavy games in the future. That's what it is.
And Spielworxx will go towards medium set and medium to heavy strategy games.
Yeah, yes.
The trend which will follow.
Yes, so all of the games I'm doing in the next couple of years are medium to heavy. So although there is some differences, a game that, for example, Gentes, I think you would say it's a medium type game. I think in the US also says it's a medium complexity game. In Germany, it's a heavy game. So the differences are also, it's a cultural thing, but in Germany all the complexity levels are a little bit lower. So here it's a heavy game. As I said, you should never outrule changes. So, but I really doubt that I will do a family type game or that I would do a kids game, because other companies are doing this in a much better way than and my customer base is heavy gamers and medium to heavy gamers. So that's what I'm doing in the future. And these are the games that I enjoy most. And Spielworxx, I only do games that I enjoy. And if I don't like the game, even if I think this could be a successful game, but if I don't like it, I won't do it.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Uli. Thank you
Gladly.
for the interview. I hope people enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish you and your Spielworxx a good time from now on. Good times from now on.
Thank you very much, and stay healthy, stay safe, enjoy your time in Romania, and maybe if there is an Essen convention this year, hopefully next year, if somebody from your country is coming over to Spielworxx, please come over and have a chat. I'd love to do this. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Bye bye. Thank you. Bye.